Hi, T here. Wati Magbo. So I've been looking for how to use that slang. I finally found it. So you must have heard that COP26 is currently ongoing in the UK. That is the United Nations Conference on Climate Change. So this summit brings together parties to discuss on actions required to accelerate the Paris Agreement and the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change. So for this year, there are a few goals, just about 4 goals, that have been set, for COP 2021. So one of it is, to secure global net zero, by mid-century and keep 1.5 degrees within reach. We also want to adapt to protect communities and natural habitats, and as well as mobilize finance and then work together, to deliver, but from what we've gathered, we've also seen like a sort of pushback, especially from developing nations, African nations, pushing back around some of these discussions, because of course that there's gonna have to be some level of trade-offs for these nations, and many of the issues, and looking at it, Africa, for example, has about 17% of world population, but only contributes about less than 4%, of global emissions, and so these nations are pushing back and then saying there's these trade-offs, they have to be there, and all of that, these trade-offs are there. So and then there's also one main issue here where we're talking about, so there's also global poverty, and global poverty attacks, or will I say, you find global poverty in developing nations. And so everyone is then saying, can developed nations use the same passion and action with which climate change is currently being addressed? Can that same that same attitude come into global poverty? Can we just bring up a little more push as it relates to global poverty as well? So do you think that developing nations should sort of like pull back a little regarding climate change, or do you think that developed nations should also put in more action as it regards global poverty? That's on the one side. But then there's also the side of saying, because really we can't, climate change is here, and developing nations would be on the receiving side of the effects of climate change. We can already see global warming, we can see flooding, we can see migration, we can see food insecurity, and we can see a lot of diseases, and many of these things already happening, and the developing nations are being hit a lot. So, but how then do you think that, let's zero in on Africa, how do you think that Africa can develop without compromising on climate change? What do you think Africa can do? This is a very key discussion that we have to have, and I would like to really hear your thoughts. Thank you.